Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode 58. I'm just back from Mexico. One of our VP of Strategy, Grace, who has worked here for 9 years, just got married to Aaron, who actually edits Drink with James. Hello, Aaron. The wedding was amazing. I got to be the officiant, which was very fun, having known them for so long. We were down in San Miguel, which is one of my favorite places in the world. It was just an incredible weekend. Maybe Aaron, since it's your wedding, you could just throw a quick 10-second hyper montage of some of the photos I took at your wedding, and we could just enjoy that for a moment. I am off script this week. ChatGPT is not writing this week's episode. If you didn't see the last episode we posted, we did have ChatGPT write the episode. As we all know, the influencer industry has exploded in recent years, and it can be tough to get noticed amongst the millions of other creators out there. But it kind of sucked, but is worth a listen. Ultimately, also, I think I mentioned this, but it bears repeating. I think that AI, in all of its forms, will probably become something like HTML coding, right? It will become something that will be kind of woven into everything that we do. I am not at the place yet where I think it's going to be, replacing your job or dramatically changing your life in the next year or two. But I do think y'all should be experimenting with it. I think you should be playing with it. I think you should be finding ways to have it play into your process and augment what you are doing. I've seen a lot of these technology hype cycles come and go. I'm usually pretty skeptical. If you remember months ago, maybe we can pull out a quote from me saying that I thought Be Real was going to crash and burn and was not going to be an actual thing with any staying power. A few weeks ago, we talked about Be Real. My prediction stands, which is that within 6 months, nobody will think or care about Be Real. Recently, they have announced that they are not doing very well. They've had no growth in almost 6 months. So it looks like that prediction is right. So I've generally been skeptical of these hype cycles. I do think AI is probably the most exciting and real one that we have experienced in quite some time. So if you haven't played with it yet, make sure you do. For ChatGPT, just go to openai.com, right? You can sign up and start messing around with it. First good question to ask it is see if it knows who the hell you are. So maybe share in the comments if ChatGPT knows who you are. If it does, what does it say about you? I want to read it, put it in there. A couple of Instagram changes happening recently. We just had a post that did really well on our channel where we were talking about Instagram shifting the algorithm back towards photos a little bit, not massively, but they have admitted that they over-indexed on video in the algorithm. Instagram is still very much a place where people like to share photos, so they have tweaked the balance on the algorithm, and we have heard creators overwhelmingly say that they do think that their photos are doing better than they have in the past. As always, carousels do better. I will say, I don't think we do a single sponsored post anymore that's one photo. They outperform single photos so much that ultimately it's almost never that we have a creator publish a static image that's just one photo. Just not what people want, and also I just don't think the algorithm likes it. They just copied, surprise, TikTok's kind of auto swiping carousels recently. So carousels seems like it's going to continue to be a bigger part of Instagram, best practices on Instagram. You probably get best of both worlds by throwing a video or two into that carousel with your static images. The nice thing is there you can balance it, right? You can have 2 or 3 professional photos, you can have a couple iPhone photos, you can have a couple of videos, you can kind of throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what the algorithm picks up and likes. Also, Instagram announced that they are going to roll out ways for creators to monetize their UGC. Brands are going to be able to add your photos to their shops on Instagram. They will have to pay you for the privilege to do that. So another way for you to make money, I don't expect it to be massively impactful in the short term, but something to look out for as they continue to add tools for creators to monetize. Few questions. First of all, I love these questions are coming in more. Keep them rolling in. This is my preferred format of the show, is not for me to come up with topics, but for y'all to ask what's on your mind and me to answer. So, first one, I'm bilingual and I post my captions in English and Spanish. Since IG auto-translates captions, should I stop or continue to show a bit about myself with every post? Great question. We work with a number of bilingual creators. We most heavily probably on Fohr Squad, where we almost always have bilingual creators in the Fohr Squad. We find that you should definitely continue to post bilingual captions. One issue is you've got, essentially Google Translate translating what you wrote. And so, your tone, jokes, slang, those things may not translate effectively. And ultimately, it's not your voice then, you're being translated. So I don't think you're going to come off as authentically. We also just find that that content does really well. So I think that if you are bilingual and if your following is bilingual, absolutely encourage you to post, continue to post both in English and whatever other language that you're posting in. Another, outside of making sure you get the context and slang and making sure that your words are not being changed or manipulated by a computer, I think clients and brands are really excited to work with bilingual creators. A lot of this country does not speak English as their first language. Something that is so great about influencer marketing is that brands get to go meet their customers where they're at, right? And while, it would be difficult for a brand to justify airing an ad in Spanish on a major network, because that just wouldn't make sense because it's not super targeted. Working with a Spanish-speaking influencer who has a Spanish-speaking audience in America and doing that post in Spanish is an amazing way to get into a community that they may feel like they have a hard time reaching. So if you're a bilingual creator, it's a really big selling point to be able to communicate with those audiences that, again, through traditional advertising, those brands might have had a harder time getting in touch with. So definitely encourage you to do that. Another question is, have brands been investing much into YouTube sponsorships? Have brands been investing much into YouTube sponsorships lately? I do feel like YouTube is coming back a little bit. When we started the company, YouTube was a much bigger thing. It got really expensive, and then Instagram blew up and we didn't do much YouTube. And I think that the explosion on TikTok and Reels rolling out and becoming so much more popular has pushed us back into just thinking about video. YouTube Shorts helps. We do some work on YouTube Shorts. Yet to be totally clear on the efficacy of those things, but it's worth playing around with. But definitely seeing a little uptick in brands on YouTube. Look, I think YouTube is still a really impactful and important audience. I think it's a platform that, if you build a following there, is highly lucrative. I think that ultimately building a YouTube audience is going to be, is going to end up paying off for you regardless. I feel like YouTube audiences are, more connected to that content. They're actively choosing to watch it. They are spending a much longer time consuming the content than they are on other platforms. So it is still really, really powerful from a conversion and sales and persuasion standpoint with brands. Obviously, longer form storytelling. There's a lot that we can do on YouTube that we can't do other places. That said, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I don't think long form video content is making any sort of comeback, but also the culture inside of every micro community on the internet is different. And so, while the broader trend may be that long form video is not making a comeback, go to one of Marquez's tech review videos and it's got an insane amount of views and people will watch 20, 30-minute videos on that. And so in that community, long form video still works very well. And so again, it's really about what works for you, what works for your audience, and what they are looking for. Last question. Will Pinterest campaigns ever become a thing? It's a platform that's evolved a lot and been around for a while, and I wonder why more brands don't run campaigns there. That's a great question. Pinterest is one of those platforms that I think brands post to themselves that, again, big traffic drivers, a lot of excitement about it 8 years ago, much less excitement about it now. But as social continues to be more and more important, I think more brands are starting to revisit it. Curation and creation are kind of different things. I think they command also different price tags. One of the problems with Pinterest is because it's not feed-based, it's harder to charge for it. A single post on Pinterest isn't worth much because you could pin hundreds of things in a day, right? And so there's no scarcity there. And as we talk about all the time in the show, like this is a market, it's a marketplace, right? Scarcity, demand, supply, these are the things that create pricing. And so when there's no scarcity, it gets harder to charge for something. This is a similar problem on Twitter. Active Twitter accounts that do really well maybe post 30 tweets a day or more. If you're 1/30th of the tweets that you're creating in a day, so 210 in a week, 840 in a month, it's just hard to charge for that, right? I mean, go to Instagram where you might post 3 or 4 in-feed posts a week. So, let's say it's even 16 posts versus 840 posts. Which one's going to be more valuable? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? And so because there's no scarcity, because there's no feed, it's hard to charge for it. Of course, you could do a sponsored board, right? And that's like a little fuller. But ultimately, yeah, there's not a lot of commercialization of that platform yet. But I do think that in the broader social world, I have heard Pinterest coming up more recently than I have in past years. So maybe this is something that's going to change. People are revisiting YouTube. Maybe in a year or so, people will be revisiting Pinterest. I think what's most important is showing up where your audience is, creating content that they like, helping them with whatever they come to you with, whatever they look for, to you for, is creating that content and being there, right? And so if Pinterest is really working for you, if your audience loves your Pinterest boards, keep doing it, And then I think that if you have an active audience there, or you have a Pinterest that is performing really well, then that's something you should bring up to brands, because often, they may not be looking for an opportunity to do a Pinterest campaign, but they come to you for an Instagram campaign and you say, hey, I got 1 million followers on Pinterest and the shit kills and it drives a lot of traffic. Do you want to try that? Most brands will say, yeah, we'll give that a try. That could be interesting, right? If you have an active community there, it's up to you to bring that to the brand and show them how that could work and price it. And I think you find that a lot of brands would be amenable to doing that. It just depends on what's working for you. That's it for this week. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Like, subscribe, share it, send us questions. We'll keep answering them. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Do you have any Met Gala reviews?
Everyone looked so skinny last night. Shockingly thin. So one thought is a lot of people are taking Ozempic. That's quite clear. I thought the clothes were fine. I mean, my controversial hot take is I actually think Chanel's clothes are kind of sometimes. I think the accessories are great, and I like the jackets and the classic Chanel, suiting, but I think Chanel's gowns and dresses are not very good. All you need to do is look at everything Margot Robbie has worn in the red carpet the last 4 or 5 years. That poor woman is being tortured by Chanel's creative directors. I'm not a huge fan. Generally, I was not a huge Karl Lagerfeld fan. I was underwhelmed. I think it's when you can't really have that much fun with it. I mean, Chanel is Chanel, right? So I think other times people have been able to have a little more fun with the themes. Tom Brown team did well, as always.